I'm Laura Gilhausen, registered nurse and diabetes educator at Ashfield County Medical Center. Today is World Diabetes Day, and we're talking about new tools for testing or checking your blood sugars, monitoring your blood sugars. There's more than just the poke at home. There might be the lab draw. There might be nothing at all, and you're just monitoring yourself and your own health. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks. If you get a new meter, ways to dust off and make sure you're getting the best check that you possibly can for your monitoring, and what to do with these numbers, because they're not going to help you if they're just in the memory in your machine. So there's a little video. It's from the American Diabetes Association to promote diabetes awareness. We're going to try to flip to it really quick. There it is, the other one.
It's just not popping.
Those of you that live with diabetes know that you can do the same thing every day, but have you ever noticed that you don't always get the same answers when you're checking every day? It's because sometimes your body's doing things in the background. Sometimes it's a couple of days out before it will. Okay, that's the video in about the middle, or the beginning. If you can, yeah, there we go. Oh, that was the end of it already. No, oh, I was going to say, just go ahead and let it finish. Oh, well. I do not remember all of the words in his spiel, but it's all of those steps that you go through. You wake up, you check, you look. It's all right unless it isn't. You eat, feed the kids, feed yourself, check, correct, cover. Once you get to the decision, again and again throughout your day, it's checking in with yourself, checking in with a meter, checking in as if it's okay, yay. Maybe it's not, but you know, that's always that underlying stressor that you have in the diabetes tasks. Do you have enough money for those test strips? Did your order come today? Did your meter end up getting changed when your insurance changes at the beginning of the year? Or somewhere in the middle of the year sometimes? Of course, it's drawing up, checking, poke, feed yourself, feed your kids, check again, and do it all again the next day, the next night, the next morning. So while you're doing these checks, that's okay. We'll skip it. I gave them the spiel. The neat part is throughout the whole day, if you can go to diabetes.org and follow it, you hear that kind of like, oh, it's a check again. Is it okay again? And it's always that underlying snippet of, it's okay until it isn't. It's okay if it isn't. Because you're always in that. It helps keep you in the driver's seat, but it always keeps you on that little bit of an edge of, well, did what I think work really work? You know, a lot of challenges too end up being, when do your medicine hit? When does other things come into play? So a lot of it is knowing what your targets are. Some of it we're going to do using your results, some meter tips to make sure that when you are doing a check, it's the most meaningful and the most accurate so that you can make a safe decision. So, I think I left a blank page for a reason. One of the things we're facing in diabetes, and once again, we're trying to get away from name calling, so it's, do you have diabetes? Not that diabetic, this, that, and the other. It's old lingo. A lot of times if you can't afford your meds, what do they say? You're non-compliant. Well, you're not non-compliant. You didn't have the extra 2 weeks of medicine, so that's not a non-compliance issue. It's a supply issue. But once again, it's supply. As we get older, that poor pancreas, those cells that make insulin are called beta cells, they've worked a long time, and they're getting wore out. So when diabetes finally shows up in the blood work, or in your symptoms, or in your checking, it's that white flag saying, I surrender, help me out. But when you only test at certain points in the day, you might go, hey, pretty good, I'm in the zone, one out of the zone. But it's when we start to look at what happens throughout the whole day that you get that picture of what we're looking at in an A1C. So this is just a quick little thing that said when you have multi-daily injections and you're doing your checking multiple times in the day, you're the blue line. You're kind of running a little high because you're missing pieces of the day. If you're on an insulin pump, you're the orange line. And look, insulin pump without extra tools is not going, it does better than injections, but it still has challenges. Your multiple daily injections with the CGM to help you out. With the CGM is continuous glucose monitoring. It's the answers in between your tests. It's knowing that if you got a 110, am I 110 because I was 200 half an hour ago and it's a half an hour, I'm now 110, am I dropping fast? Or were you 50 and you're 110 now because your liver saved you? Or you forgot to test and it's after breakfast. So that's part of it. Checking in can also be just, how's your energy level? Believe me, you know if you had a food choice or an activity choice that robbed you of all your strength and energy. Sometimes it's your mood, and you may not notice your mood, but your family or friends or coworkers around you might notice that all of a sudden there's a change. Sometimes hunger, but sometimes hunger can be depression. Sometimes hunger can be anxiety. So finding out which meal leaves you hungry later, or when do we eat, activities, sleeping, food, what we drink, and looking at the big picture. It's not just this poke that we do to check in. It's that 1 second in the day. So if you're only testing once a day and you only test in the morning, that's wonderful. You know what you run about 6 or 7 in the morning, or about that hour around whatever that test point is. My challenge is pick a day or 2 or 3 during the week and check some other time. Or pick a day to check around a meal. What's your favorite meal? And I'm not going to say to ever check around Thanksgiving dinner, because that's one meal out of what, 120 that we get in a year. About 12,000 meals in a year. You know, each month is 90 meals. One off kilter is not going to be the problem with an A1C off kilter. Might knock your blood sugars out of control for a day or 2 after. That's the other strange and inviting thing. Also, the more balanced your plate, what's your response? Because the newest thing isn't about glycemic index, it's about the gut flora and how your body uses the food that you eat. So once again, testing in around things so that you can see, what does my body do with this? More than just one test, because like you know, it changes over time. Each day is a different stressor, different hormones, different what's your body doing. So we have to take a little step back from the point right here to what's it look like at the end of the week? What's it look like at the end of the month? Some things that can make your blood sugar go up, certain foods, skipping your meds, being sick, having stress, even if it is you just won the lottery, or you just found out you're getting the nicest tax return. That's good stress, but it'll still go up. Being less active, let's face it, we had, you had 8 inches of snow. You were not out there walking that day. Things that can make you go down, skipped meals, eating less than normal, too much medicine. You've changed your meal plan, you've changed your activity, but did we change your meds to match? Alcohol without eating can make you go down. Sometimes a day or 2 later. And more activity than usual, maybe not the minute that you got off the treadmill that you went and did 20 extra minutes on, but it might be 3 or 4 hours later for some people. That's once again, when do you feel the crash? But you're always going to want to do some problem solving. Look at something, think about it, what was parts and pieces of the puzzle, and learn from your own experiences. And you know, that's where when you go to the doc, say, hey, in the last 2 weeks I've noticed that I have to eat when I wasn't planning on it, every morning. Maybe we need to cut one of your pills back a little bit. You know, But lots of people just go, I gotta do this, without doing the homework, and they think the doctor can just kind of, we don't read minds. Believe me, it would be wonderful if we could, maybe not. But your A1C is a nice, a 3-month tattletale. And I don't even want to say tattletale, because once again, it's a tool. Oh, I left it on the wall over there. How much sugar's on your blood? And the reason this is important is the more sugar in your system, the more tired, the more thirsty, the more damage to your system over time. One reading crazy is not a problem. Constantly always being crazy, that's where the problem is. But, oh yeah, there we go. See how slow that goes? It's even behaving. It was cold in the car too. But A1C is more of a 90-day overview. It does not catch all of those lows, highs, perfects. So the new lingo is time and range for how long do you spend in a safe range. Safe is usually under 7. Depending on your health history, we might tweak that back, or we might tweak it down. You know, if you're at 7 and doing okay and not having lows, we might drop you, try to aim for a 6.5. If you're at 6.0, but you're having a low blood sugar 3 or 4 times a week, that's not safe. So we're going to back you back to 7.5 or 6.5, and you're going to know these things. You know, you're going to know, oh, all of a sudden I've got to eat between lunch and supper. Maybe it's because it's too far apart, but it might be because you're running out of gas too fast. The other thing you see when the doctor tells you about your A1C is this estimated average blood glucose. So what that means is, when they go back through math and studies, they said, let's look at everybody that had a 12% A1C. And then they looked at every single blood sugar reading they had recorded for that and came up with this number, because at one point they thought how percentage-wise soaked in sugar your red blood cell was too complicated. They wanted to give you a number that was very much similar to what you see when you do check at home. So that's what that is. It doesn't mean that every time you test your blood sugar you're going to see a 295. It means that some days you're maybe in the 150s, but there are also some times in the day that you're 400 or 500 if you started out at 250s. So it's an average. And the other end of our fence is how big is your swing. You know, if you're 40 and 400 and you've got an A1C of 7%, and we're all going, you have an A1C of 7, that's wonderful, you're at your goal. But if we don't know if you're doing 40s and 400s to get there, that's where the danger is. That's why the checking at home has to kind of match what's going on in the A1C. There we go. So, meters if you've got them. Ever have any frustration with those? What's your biggest frustration when you're checking? New words, new lingo.
Just the poking.
The poking part?
Have to do it multiple times to get the right amount of blood.
Oh, well, see, that's a real big problem. Because one of the nifty little things is there's a lancing device. And some people share with me that it's a pain in the neck to change out your little lancet. But one of the best ways to make sure that you're doing okay is, of course, first and foremost, wash your hands before you do this. Dry them on a paper towel. And think about it, the kitchen towel, the bathroom towel, how many times did you have lotion or something sticky on your hands and you dried them on that towel? If you just washed your hands with soap and water and now you go and do a sticky, guess what? You just added sugar to your spot. The other piece of the puzzle is test strips do have an expiration date. So you want to make sure they're always in date. Also, they are light sensitive and humidity sensitive, so if your finger's a little bit wet and you reach in, you might have ruined a couple of test strips, so that when you stick it in, it goes, error. And you're like, how can that be an error? I just pulled you out of the box. Once in a while, the strips are a little too smart for their britches. They know that you're expired and your meter says that it's last week, and these things expired the month before. Some of them will let you do the test anyway. And a few meters know that, oh, hey, wait, that strip's outdated. The end of that strip will suck up any liquid that it comes in contact with, whether it's water on the counter or a little juice on the counter, water from your finger. So, and a lot of times you'll see pictures, like this is a real good one. You'll see lots of times where they leave the test strips out on the counter. Every minute this sits out on the counter, it's less accurate than when you just pull it out, stick it in the box, and go. You want your best poke possible. Most of the lancing devices out on the market are kind of spring-loaded, so they can go in and out really fast. I mean, think about it, in and out. If you've got an old one, and some of these don't even last 3 months, Medicare will, you know, if you're in one of those places where they mail order for you, they may send you a new little device about every 3 months, because that's about, there's some junky ones, there's some better ones. But you can choose how big the needle is that goes in this guy. You can make sure that your spring is still working. And I'm wondering, because I try to save people from broken ones, so that means I teach with broken stuff. Yeah, see how that went up and didn't go anywhere? It just went plop and stayed. This spring's not going to be very friendly when I want it to go in and out really quick. So that's a quick little test. If it's going straight up and sticking. Also, sometimes because different lancets sit different in your housing, this might be where it always worked really great on a number 3 and all of a sudden you got to have it on a 5 and push in hard. It might be sitting lower in your bin. Might need a new spring, but you always want a new needle. This is the cheapest thing out of all of your diabetes care. It's like 1/3 of a cent to 1/2 cent. And this is the one thing people don't always change because it's a pain in the neck. They think they're being cheap. They're saving time. It's giving you a chance to get an infection. Also, whatever sugar was on this from the last blood sugar reading, you just brought into the new one. So if you get too much blood, because let's face it, you don't need a lot of blood anymore. You need about a decimal point. You know, about that much blood is about all you need for blood sugar readers now. Now, if you really got one of our old ancient ones with a laser light, that guy still needs, it's time to upgrade. You know, we haven't had that one out in about 20 years. You know, the new guys suck in just a littlest tiniest drop, but you want to get the best drop you can first. So one of the tips, warm water when you're soap and water washing. That'll help get blood flow down. You know, you're making your coffee, throwing the toast in the toaster and getting your meter out at the same time. The finger you're going to poke, leave it downhill for a bit. Milk it down first before you poke. Make sure you've got the best size needle. You can get them as small as 33 gauge. 33 is very tiny, 28 is kind of like the standard. Some of them are a straight little poke needle. Some of them will say blade. Most of the time you're getting just a straight little poke, but if all of a sudden you've got this weird box and it's like, whoa, I never bled that much before, take a look at what the pharmacy might have handed you or what they shipped you from home. The other part of this that's tricky, as I'll get out, is use the side of your finger. You know, set your finger on the table, aim for the sides, not the centers. The centers may not let that blood pop out the hole. Also, because the hole is tiny, you might want to poke from the tip of your finger or milk it down to get the best results you can. Then, when you put your blood sugar strip in, there's always a warm-up routine. So always make sure that the little light's saying, I'm ready for a test. The other thing too is if it took a long time to get your drop of blood, this will time out. You're so happy you got the drop of blood, you just put the 2 pieces together and you're like, give me an answer. And it says error. So if it did time out, there's only, I was going to say there's only 2 meters, you can't pull the strip back out. But all the rest of them, you can pull it out, stick it back in. Granted, don't let the blood part of it get anywhere near that test strip. And what you want to do is bring the edge of the strip to the edge of the drop and wait for your click, a beep, or watching it count down. There's 3 meters out there that don't give you that little beep, I got enough blood. Beep, I got an answer for you. It just does it all silent in the background. And there's some meters that will talk you through the whole thing. They don't have volume controls, so if you're a little hard of hearing, you may want to turn the TV off or down and the radio too so that you can hear what it's telling you to do. Because that has been kind of the most interesting comments about some of the talking meters was, how do I turn the volume up? There is no volume up or down for it. Some of them that beep have a lower beep, a high beep, and no beep at all. And that's all personal settings. And then you gotta do something with your number. You know, write it down. The meters have a memory, so if you're on the fly and you're like, I write all my stuff down at the end of the day, it'll be in the memory for you. But if you wait 3 months for your follow-up with your doc and he's sitting there scrolling through your memory bank in this thing, and he goes, hey, about 6 weeks ago you had a week that looked kind of rough, tell me about that. Are you gonna remember what was going on 6 weeks ago? Not without a note. Or you get a few lows, and we might go, what was different this week? You know, you could have been sick, you might have been on vacation and had beautiful numbers because you were doing something fun. But that's where keeping a log book or a log sheet or a calendar, but always lining up the same time of day or the same time frame. So if you're using a calendar, because a lot of people get a lot of calendars this time of the year, put all your breakfasts in the top line. Put all your bedtimes at the bottom so that you can quickly at the end of the week go, yep, these are all my before noons. These are all my 1 to 6s. These are all my bedtime ones. So you can look across and look at apples to apples, lunch to lunch, breakfast to breakfasts, middle of the nights. Anybody doing a middle of the night bathroom run? Have you ever checked in the middle of the night just for fun? Check it out, it's fun. Honest. Our bodies have a natural low blood sugar time. And women have a wonderful hormone system thing that in the morning it might be your worst number and noon might be your best. Just simply because we've got hormones, and if women have hormones, I bet guys do too. So I'd be willing to bet guys might, some people might have that same kind of challenge. You've got more insulin resistance happening in the morning. When you are checking with your meter at home, that sharps that you take out of here, that lovely little plastic cap that you stick on here is not going to protect the rest of the world from that sharp, including you. You've already poked yourself once for my blood sugar number, for your own blood sugar number. So then you're going to want to follow it up and put that sharp in something hard, like an old prescription bottle since it's tiny. If you're doing insulin or doing pens or syringes, then you want a bigger bottle, like a bleach bottle or a laundry detergent jug, that kind of stuff. So targets are personalized. Generally, we're looking at 80s to 130s. This was 70 to 130, depends on where you are with your health history and your diabetes history. After a meal, we'd like you less than 180s. Now, how far after a meal? Usually about 2 hours, unless it's a lot of high-fat food, because that's where your rise is going to finally happen, is 2 hours later. So once in a while, your doctor will say, before breakfast, before lunch, and we kind of know everything you did between breakfast and lunch is going to have that effect on your numbers. And different ways of logging. You know, maybe challenge yourself for a day or 2 or 3 or a week to do that. What did I eat? What did my body do with it? And this person happens to be taking insulin. So like this one example here, if you can see, this breakfast was 2 slices of toast, peanut butter, and a cup of orange juice. And we bottomed out. Interesting. From a 127 with 4 units of insulin, we went to 67. Then we had a ham sandwich and a big apple and some water and 4 units of insulin, and we were back up to 124. Then we went to Olive Garden. We still thought 4 units of insulin would take care of Olive Garden. But what in the world did he eat? We went, well, whoever this person was, we had a 307 at bedtime. Well, we had Olive Garden, huh? And we took our long-acting insulin at bedtime. Now look at where the common is, a morning walk. So that might be why we went from 127 to 67. Because we had enough carbs, not a lot of protein, but a walk might have done that. Sometimes a walk is worth a couple units of insulin. For some people, sometimes it's worth a lot more. This next day where we copy it, they forgot to take their insulin, and so their number was higher. They had less carbs, maybe less. Lunch was about the same, except we had a cup of milk and a small orange. Up here we had water and an apple. But we came down and we took more insulin because the day before we kind of learned. We're still recovering from our 307 the night before. So that's kind of the stuff you want to look at. And this day they didn't take a walk or they forgot to write it down. So maybe there was a walk between lunch and dinner because their number came down really nice. But those are things to do. So understanding when you're checking what to do with the number Places to check the side of your finger. And tops and bottoms are perfect. Don't always use the same finger. It's gonna get tired, it's gonna get scarred. It may be numb because you have neuropathy or carpal tunnel in those couple of fingers, but share the wealth. And the backside. So if you're ever in the hospital and you find it really hard to use the backside of your right hand, when they come in, give them the other hand that you don't use. Give your body a break. Make sure to change the fingers. We talked about cleaning. The lancets and test strips, you always want fresh and clean right out of the drawer. Know how your meter works. Checking too soon after eating, mindless checking. You know, we have mindless eating. You kind of have mindless checking for some people too. Use that. Use it. Test around something you want to know about. Because when they invented continuous glucose monitoring, they found that a lot of times people had lows that they never even knew about. But then they would be frustrated because they'd see a high. Well, they're high because their body fixed it. Or you subconsciously fix it because you just get used to just fixing something. This is a testing in pairs idea. They were testing around breakfast and thought 7 different breakfasts, 7 different responses, and you find out what breakfast works best for you. The new lingo is time and range. The more time that we have in range, the safer your control is. The big thing we want to fix first and foremost is severe lows. And then we'll fix the highs, because if we don't have to fix a severe low, we might not go so high. That's the idea behind that. So we have wonderful new tools now that you can wear, but this is why you never get the same answer twice. This is real life with diabetes. You might have done your meal plan perfect, your medicine's perfect, it's what did your body do in the background. So you can do a test or a check, not a test, it's a check, it's a survey, it's a deep dive look into what's your body doing, even if you only wear it for a week. Or if you've been struggling with your A1C not matching your logbook, no matter how good you've adjusted everything else, you might want to consider the continuous glucose monitoring. Medicare now pays for it to even be the one that goes on your phone. Starting next year, they're still shipping out the ones that don't go to the phone. The no-check one is coming soon. But then you're going to compare apples to apples, week to week. But when your A1C is not there, no matter how good you're doing, because you do get to a point where you have to eat to fuel your body to do your walk. So you do get to a point where you can't fix it with just activity and eating alone. It might need meds to help out. It might mean understanding how different things affect you. So that the new stuff where it's like, I don't have to poke my finger, here's the little wand and my number. It's a little teeny tiny filament wire into it gets into your fat layer, and it works on interstitial fluid, so it's about the size of an eyelash or two. And it reads how your blood sugar changes. So the number that you see on your scan and poke your finger may not be dead on exactly, because they're all within 20% of what the number really is. But the point is, you're going to see that direction of change, the arrows that go up or down, like that one's rising slow. That one's steady on because the arrow is kind of steady. They all give you some kind of graphic representation so you can see where you've been, so you can kind of predict where you're going, so you know how to respond. So there's four main systems now. Dexcom 6 is the newest one where you don't have to check with the calibrate. The other version before it, G5, you just tested twice a day, and you could dose your insulin based on what your reading was, as long as it's sticking to you good. Freestyle Libre is the one that's on the news or in the TV commercials all over the place. It's up in the back of the arm. You have the cute little scanner. If you don't scan, it won't know what you did. It only holds 8 hours. Although the new 14-day wear is supposed to hold more data. They all have a little bit of a warm-up time before you get to see results. They all have some way on your device or the reader, if you don't have a smartphone, that you can look back on your own. Hey, at the end of the week, I want to see, what was my last 7 days like? How much time was I in the target? Was my problem more my lows or my highs? And that kind of stuff. So it helps you see your data and use it better. And then Medtronic has their own standalone one now too. And the new guy, which I don't know if you've seen any ads for the 90-day read implant one. It just got FDA approved like June, July. They're just starting to roll it out, but this little teeny, soft, it's not allergic, you don't get allergic, you can still get an MRI with that part, it's implanted in your arm for 90 days. It's a little teeny nick in the skin, little slot, steri strip, you're out the door. 90 days later, you come back, you put the new one in, take the old one out. They're using it in Europe, they're looking at it for 6 months now. In Europe, we're still on a 90-day one. And then the little pod thing here, you put a new piece of tape on it each day. The only time this guy reads is when you've got the little reader sitting on top of him. This one works with phosphorescence. It somehow takes the changes in your blood sugar and does it with a light. Kind of nifty that we could have that in there for 90 days, maybe 180 soon. And then this is what you're getting. You're looking at how, like this one. We had most of the days were exactly the same and 2 that were different. So what do you think might be different on these 2 days? Any idea? What might be different?
Birthday party.
Birthday party. Definitely. Maybe 2 sleepless nights in a row. Maybe the weekend. Drinking? Yeah. Definitely, yeah, that might be after the 3 days over here, but see, look, the other problem that you can kind of see is how many times they're really below where you want them to be here at like 8 o'clock at night, and they're kind of low, then their body's trying to pick it up and fix it around that 3 or 4 in the morning. You know, and here, probably woke up low, fixed the low, over-fixed the low. That's the other hard part, is not over-fixing lows. But this is some of the data you can get to look back through. You can look back every single day when you wear one of these devices, or you can look at that bigger picture, which is this, the line in the middle of these kind of reports is what your average of all the blood sugars in the time zone that you're reporting. And then you can see what average, and then the gray is those 1 or 2 outliers that were outside of the bulk of where you were. So that's the kind of fun there. But you know what? Don't beat yourself up about your numbers. They're a tool to use to know if you're on the journey you want to be on. It's kind of like getting back in the driver's seat, or when you're driving with a road map and or hiking in the woods and you go, I better check the compass and make sure I'm still on the trail I wanted to be on. Take a look at your day. Was it travel? Was it stress? Food? Medicine? Something change? A new job? A new anything. Time of year, you know. Thanksgiving's maybe not going to happen on Thanksgiving Day. It might be that weekend after or before. But learn from them. Discuss your solutions with your doctor, your diabetes educator. You're not out there alone. And sometimes you feel like it, especially if you're one of the few people in your family, or you might be the only person in your family with diabetes. And try something new. You know, if we always keep doing the same old thing, we're not going to see if there's something else that will work better or different. Oh, holiday tips. I found a few holiday tips. Yeah, the one holiday tip recipe was how to do a little, you know, the green pepper, red pepper, bell peppers, turn it into a cute little turkey to hold your hummus so that you could dip your vegetables into it. But mindful eating. How many times do we do drive-by eating or walk-by eating? Find out what's making you grab that food. You know, it might be that you dipped. So poke your finger and take a check. Be the one that brings the veggies. I don't know. I kind of tell people, be the party that you bring your favorite, because you know that there's going to be 20 other people eating it, and you'll be lucky if you get 1 piece. Because if you do it at home, you might eat all the pieces. What are your you guys have any tips that you find get you through the holiday? Or any of the rough times? Any tips that work for you that might work for someone else?
Maybe smaller appetizer plates.
Yeah,
Those are the big ones.
that was. Oh, no, I took the plates right back out. I was going to bring plates, and I said, no, put them back. I put them back. But measuring cups help. If you're at a party, you don't have measuring cups. You're eating out with friends at a restaurant. Your hand is your best measuring cup. I mean, let's face it, we all want a guy's hand when we do this. But a cupped hand is generally about a half a cup. know which veggies are your carbs. And maybe it's worth it for you for that day. Maybe you want to choose something different. You know, if you want the pie, kind of skip the fast carbs on the plate and save it for the pie. You know, Thanksgiving dinner, it's take a walk. You know, if everybody sits down and takes a nap and then watches the football game, maybe go, hey, this year, let's all go for a walk if the weather cooperates. The other quick way to do the meal plan, you want your meat to be about the size of the palm of your hand. Depth and round, so a guy's hand, of course, is a little more, because guys get a little more protein. Women's hand's a little bit smaller, because we don't need as much protein as we think we do. Fingers are your veggies, the fibery guys, and then you can have a handful of something. A potato about the size of the computer mouse, not the ergonomic one and not the gaming ones. That's 2 carb choices, or 30 grams of carbs. If it's a sweet potato, it's the same 30 grams of carbs. Different vitamins, different minerals, 1 more gram of fiber, but it's still a carb. So choose your battles and draw the smileys where you had a special time or a special meal, you know, on your log sheet. That way you'll remember. Any questions? Yeah.
For those of us who are still diabetes-free, are there any monitoring tools, how about that we can use just to check that we're on the right track, rather than go to the doctor once a year and find out we're
Yeah.
hurting?
Generally speaking, that A1C once a year is kind of the best there is. Well, and your fasting glucose, because prediabetes is anytime your blood glucose, the fasting one from the lab, is 100 or 101, depending on which resource you're looking at, to 125. That's pre. Anytime you've had 126 or more twice, Medicare says, sorry, you have diabetes. You know, it's not that, well, we'll just brush that off because you were sick, or there was something else going on, unless it was like major trauma. We might really want to just say, put it on your radar. The other thing you can do is monitor. You know, is your weight staying the same, or going down, or going up? Has your activities or stressors changed? You know, because we all can use more activity in our day. If you're at the diabetes.org website, you'll see they want you to move every 30 minutes. I read that when it takes 30 minutes to find what you're looking for on the internet. Then it took me 30 more minutes to find the thing that I could have swore was on my laptop to include in the slide deck. But generally in the prediabetes world, it's the lifestyle changes. So you can monitor your own lifestyle changes. How well am I balancing my day with my food and my activity? You know, how many times am I filling the M&M jar and I'm the only one that ate the M&Ms by the end of the week? You know, 2 or 3, who cares? Honest, it doesn't matter. You're eating out somewhere and you've got iced tea and it is so bitter you can't stand it and you want 1 little packet of sugar in it because you maybe don't want to do the artificial stuff. That 1 little packet of sugar is 4 grams of carbs. Now your dinner roll's like 22 or 30, depending on how big or how nice that dinner roll is. If you're at Red Lobster, they used to say that that lovely little cheddar baked biscuit was 22 grams of carbs, but I swear that thing is smaller. It cannot be that many carbs. I would have to check my blood sugar sometime after it. If you wanted to, you can buy a meter. They are cheap. Some are cheap, some are expensive. If you're testing, the before the meals are probably going to be that 70 to 110 or 70 to 100. Hopefully if you're in pre, you're not going over the 100. It's the 2 hour after your biggest meal that you could poke. But then it's what was that food choice? What was the activity? How much water did you drink in the day? You know, there's more to it than just the number. But you know, diabetes is knocking on all of our doors because the older we get, the more those cells in our body have had to deal with what we handed them to deal with, you know. And our body is designed to cope with whatever we hand it until it waves the white flag and says, hey, help me out. And we have lots of new tools. I mean, I'm sure that, Lord, I have a sample of the, this is the G5, but the G6 is very darn close to this one for the Dexcom, and our lovely little Libre that I know is all over the news. I have those if you wanted to kind of see what that looks like. And then that new 90-day implant one, is the size of 2 Tic Tacs, so I bought Tic Tacs. I think the Tic Tacs are bigger than what I played with when I was learning about it. So, you know, I forgot to tell you, when you've been putting your sharks in a sharks container, tape it when it's full, or 2/3 full, say no recycle, especially if you're using a laundry detergent jug or a bleach bottle. You know, coffee cans, how many of you have noticed the coffee cans are not cans anymore? And some of them are waxed paper now, so be careful if you're using one of those. Milk jugs are still on the EPA website, the 2-liter pop bottle is still there, but they're too thin anymore. You know, way back when they put them on there, they were substantial. Now you pick up a 2-liter bottle of anything and you're kind of like, is it gonna break before I get it to the checkout counter? So once you've filled your container, tape it, and then you put it out in the trash. Any questions? Thoughts? Tips? Ideas for next year? What would you like to know about next year? I put high and low tips out there. The wash your hand tip and how to go through all those checks are out there. When it comes to testing, make sure that your meter is what your insurance will cover. If you've got red, white, and blue Medicare Part B, and you're at the pharmacy, make sure they have your red, white, and blue Medicare Part B, because without it, they will use your prescription plan, and some prescription plans won't cover it, so then you're stuck paying full price or getting a surprise of it being like out of plan fee. Same thing with your meds. If your insurance plan says, hey, we'd rather you use drug B and you were on drug A, most of them are pretty much comparable unless you've got an allergy or a sensitivity, at which point the doctor can do, there's a lot of wonderful paperwork that we can fight with your insurance with you to get what you need covered. But you know, this is that time of the year where you are talking to a plan and they say, yes, we cover your testing supplies. And then January comes and you try to go pick it up, and that's when you find out, well, they want to cover brand Z and you have brand M. So sometimes it helps to ask the next level over. Especially since you've got 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks in open enrollment. Yeah.
If you are pre-diabetic, what are the statistics about becoming full-blown diabetic? Are there statistics?
There is, and the statistics used to be that you had a 50-50 chance of going the rest of the way into diabetes, just like gestational diabetes puts you at increased risk for developing diabetes, and that statistic is still about half of the people that were gestational. And then like if your mother was gestational and you're the child, they used to say it didn't bother the child, but now they know that there's about a 50-50 chance of the child having diabetes later in life because of that exposure to the higher blood sugars before birth. There is a statistic though that says by the time they're telling you pre-diabetes, I want to say I saw 1/3 of them turn into diabetes in 5 years. Was the fastest turnover. So, you know, it kind of depends on what other things are going on in your life. And the other thing I get asked a lot is, well, geez, if I change all this, will I not have diabetes? Well, you know, your lifestyle can change so good that you've got it under control. But when things happen, like the 8 inches of snow out of the blue, and nobody has their yak tracks to go for the walk, your numbers were probably higher that day because you weren't doing that same level of physical activity that you did all summer long. You know, summer is great. All summer and fall, we're adding activity, we're outdoors in the sun, and all winter we're stuck turning it into indoors. So yeah, it's just kind of, and you know, that's the hardest part because everything makes you think that you have to be 400 pounds and do nothing to have diabetes. You could be underweight and a marathon runner and doing all the weights and still get diabetes. It's all about, can your beta cells make that insulin? You know, a big piece of it is how much is left to make insulin, and that's what really directs our care. Keeping you safe with your numbers, because we know this lower A1Cs prevent those long-term complications longer. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.